Hello and welcome to Two Guys on Two Coasts. He's in Florida, Clint Hurdle, and I'm in California, Phil Van Horn. Welcome to our podcast. We talk about all things of what's going on in culture and sports and in our lives. Thanks for the response to the first couple of podcasts. We appreciate that. And thanks for the overwhelming response to Clint's increased activity on social media. That's been fun to watch. Well, Clint, we start off with your schedule, and you're headed off. Let's see, you just got back from a couple of baseball events, and now you're heading to more. Fill us in.
Yeah, I just wrapped up my college season. I had some on-campus trips. I went to Gardner Webb, went to the University of Utah. Two very diverse atmospheres and geographic locations. However, both beautiful in their own way. Gardner Webb opens up tonight against Appalachian State. They've got a 3-game set. And I believe the Utes are opening up as well. And they're going to head south just in case the weather in Salt Lake City isn't quite forgiving. Was able to do almost like a 3-day event with each group. I'd come in, I'd watch practice. I'd do a workshop with the players. I'd spend the next day with the coaches. We'd have lunch, do a workshop with them. Then I would get the two together after the second day of practice, coaches and players, share some thoughts and information, some experiences. And then both of them had a keynote on the third day. So I was able to still plug into the head coaches one more day in the morning and then show up for a keynote event, both of them big fundraising opportunities. Passionate fan bases in both areas. Beautiful region in North Carolina, where Gardner Webb is, and what a fantastic facility they have. The University of Utah, they're undergoing a rebuilding project. They're going to build a new stadium. They no longer have access to the Bees AAA stadium. They're going to build their own stadium. They're back playing on their practice field, and they're going to probably play their games there if they can't get back on the Bees place. There's a lot of history at Utah, and I found out a lot of the football history, the basketball history, and Gardner Webb's actually developing their own baseball history. Jimmy Chester is a friend of mine from Pittsburgh. We've known each other quite a while. Gary Henderson, the connection there, I had a few players that played for him. Tommy Allison, who's now a scout with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Steve Springer, one of my very good friends that does a lot of work within the baseball industry. His Quality at Bats program, actually spent some time there as well. I think the one thing that I noticed, as much as anything, commitment level of the kids was high. The structure of practices was clean and crisp. The delegation of responsibilities and the coaching staffs, the size of them, was impressive. And both head coaches I think, have enough masculine humility that they've really surrounded themselves, from what I could tell, with a nice diverse staff. As far as generational staff, they didn't have all guys their ages. They had guys separated with age, different skill sets, different talents. Just seemed to be a very good mesh. I just love the idea that both of them were really high-fueled energies type practices, which just makes for a lot of fun. The kids were out there playing. So that was good. I will pivot and move to the pro sector this coming Sunday. I'll fly out to Scottsdale. I'll be with our Rockies organization for 10 days. I'll come back. Our daughter has an event in Gainesville. Maddie's going to run her first 5K. She's going to do it with her endocrinologist in Gainesville with her dog. So Maddie's going to go do a 5K walk run with a dog. Carl and I are going to participate. We'll probably get lost in the dust, but we're going up with her. We'll come back, put things together for a couple of days. Then I'll go back to Arizona for another 10 days, and really looking forward to the opportunity to see these, what do they call them? The show up series, or the showcase series, with all the young, talented players. Each team is going to put together, their 30 handpicked high roster, guys, and they're going to play some games. I'll be there for a couple of those. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's springtime. You can smell it in the air. You can feel it. I've got a taste of the college ball. I'll get some high school activity as well over at IMG. the high school over in Bradenton. Some very good teams come through and play there, so I'll get some of that. So I'm walking into a full-on baseball season. I'm looking forward to it.
A couple of things. One, we're gonna laugh about Steve Springer in a minute because he's a friend of ours and an affectionate friend. Do you have an internal clock, a rhythm that tells you, because of all of these years you spent around the sport, that it's time to get out? Or are you still needing a bit of a breather from that? What's your internal clock telling you this time of the year?
No, this time of the year, it's baseball season, and there's a time for baseball season. I got to a pretty good place in my managerial career where the time away was good. It was healthy. I needed a winter season. I needed a season of rest. I needed a season of recovery. I needed a season of Christmas, of New Year's, um, time with family, time with friends, time with my family, in the house. However, I was never in a hurry to get to spring, but I knew what springtime meant. And once it's on, it's on. And I've always had this little hiccup. And it started when I became a coach, because I can remember, I've been married, fortunately, 3 times. This one has stuck. But in 2 previous marriages, I can remember packing up and leaving the house, February 12th. It never made a lot of sense to me, but I was the one making those decisions. Pitchers and catchers report on Valentine's Day, which means the staffs report 2 days before that, which means there's a lot of women, wives, girlfriends, significant others and kids that spend Valentine's Day alone. And I was able to reverse that trend a few years in Colorado with the blessing of Dan O'Dowd, our general manager. I just told him it was important to me. It was important to the staffs I had at the time, and I really think it was important to the players, because not many guys are going to, throw a fit. They're not going to say anything. They're just going to show up. And then in Pittsburgh, Neil Huntington also was on board with it a few years, which made it special, because I would tell my coaches, look, we got something different this year. You don't have to report to the 15th. Enjoy that holiday with your family. Enjoy that holiday with your kids. But knowing that February is rolling around, that's spring training time. They're throwing the ball around Lake Elm Park right now. Bradenton, it's only 15 miles away. And everywhere else, it's game on. And they don't like the uniforms, I understand. They're not liking the uniforms at all.
That was the first thing to come out, is that the new uniforms, not quite the quality. And this, big league baseball is big league for a reason. And so when a guy's try on and they don't have the tailored pants and all, they notice. They notice. I want to backtrack on a couple things. I love what you talked about on Valentine's Day, because we live this. And to start off spring training with missing that one day where husbands and wives should be together, really good idea. Let's go back to Utah. Steve Springer is a friend of both of ours, really good friend, and a unique guy in baseball. Mental game guru, a monster on social media, travels the country talking about quality at bats and the value of confidence in mental game. Steve, we're counting on you to retweet and repost all of this. So, and to tell part of the story. But Clint, he is really honest in saying he learned a lot from you and played for you at one time, right?
Yes, he did. And in a very humbling way, there was a point in time where I got a call from Steve, and he kind of replayed our videotape. He goes, hey, the quality at bat program that you had on the card in Norfolk. He played for me in Tidewater. Actually, we played together. We were teammates, and then I was his manager.
Oh, wow.
How about that? At one time, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, what's for the cues on the lineup card? And I said, well, they're a way that I just helps me remember good at bats during the game, quality at bats. He goes, well, what's a quality at bat? I said, well, to me, it's not just a single or a double that you got to hit. If you didn't get a hit, there still can be quality to your bat, whether it's seeing 8 pitches, whether it's moving a runner, scoring a runner from third, lining out. I had 8 different criteria for a quality at bat. and I would put them on the card. I said, it just helped me understand that I didn't want to be tied to a batting average when I'm making out the lineup. There's some people that are given good at bats. I wanted to find a way to honor them. And if I had to have that hard discussion, if a kid guy says, how come I'm not playing? Well, it's not just your average. You know, your average, you might be hitting 260, but it's a light 260. The quality that bats isn't that good. I've been keeping track of it here, and I'd walk into the program. So Springer bought in. He just thought that was like the best idea in the world, to not have your self-esteem or self-confidence tied to a base hit, because that's basically the only way he tracked if he had a good at bat or not. You know, if he hit a single or a double or a homer. So it had value to him. He actually took it, employed it, built a program around it, and then gave me a call and said, hey, I'm about ready to launch this thing. Are you okay with me basically taking your program and monetizing it? And it really was the first time I've ever had a player present that type of situation to me. I've had people take things that I've done or developed or thought of and just use them. In baseball, I never felt violated. I should have put more thought into it, maybe, and patented it or something, protected it. But with Springer, I said, buddy, you have the passion for it. Go for it. Run with it. And he's run with it ever since. This has become a major part of what he does, his Compete with Confidence program. I know you've heard him speak. I would encourage any program that's looking for an outside voice that can instill truth, baseball truth to your players in an experienced fashion. And still it's ageless, because the things that players are concerned about today are the same things players were concerned about 20 years ago. His program is excellent. His bundles are good. All the things he does have value. And I've been, I don't know how many places this year, probably 10 or 12, where he's already been and shared. It's kind of like Johnny Appleseed. You know, he's going around throwing seed wherever he can, spending time and adding value to these players. And I just love the fact that it's such a mindset for him, because mental skills have never been more important, not just in sport, but in daily living. And Steve is an advocate for all the young players, really, that are struggling a little bit with their self-esteem and their self-confidence.
But you use a key phrase, mental skills. And for our listeners and our viewers on this podcast, so Steve is a pro scout with the Oakland organization. He has other big leaguers that call him for advice. Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, and there are others. So his thing works at the highest level. The beauty of it is it might be even better, even though these guys rely on him and have strong relationships. It might be even better in minor league, college baseball and softball, high school, club ball. Clint, I used that QAB mentality all the way down to 8, 9, and 10-year-old boys club baseball and girls neighborhood softball with my kids. It works. It's a way of rewarding. You know, a line drive out is an out, but a line drive, and one of the things that Spring says that I think he stole from you is good hitters hit line drive outs, right?
Well, there's no doubt. And the fact is, once it's off the bat, you're not in control of it anymore. Yeah. The one thing you have some control over is getting a good pitch, putting a good swing on it, and hitting it hard somewhere. Then basically you're done with it.
All right, Spring, we'll edit that and send that to you. Blow that thing up. And
we love Springer for all the right reasons.
Yeah, we should also point out he's one of the friendliest, nicest friends that you could ever have in life. And I was his agent for a while. I helped him with some stuff. How much I helped him, I don't know. But yeah, we've been with him for a while, and he's a good friend. We're grateful for him. May the Lord bless Steve Springer in the many ways that he's blessed me as well.
Amen.
Yeah. Couple of things about baseball. Going to spring training, the commissioner says he's got 4 or 5 years and then he's done. And that will be an interesting aspect to the business of baseball, because that'll likely put an end to any form of expansion, and that'll put emphasis on what ends up happening with the Oakland A's. That's just the business of baseball. As you prepare for spring training, how do you prepare now that you are doing your role with the Rockies? How do you prepare to do well your role?
Well, it's based on relationships that have been built over a 2-year period now. And this spring, we're going to have many of our minor league players that I've been able to spend time with, to mentor, to watch play and watch grow and develop in our big league camp. I want to say 17. And I'm not there to onboard them by any means, but I want to be there just to watch how they handle themselves, how they interact and carry themselves on the field, in the clubhouse. We've had good conversations. This is the next step for many of them. Some of them are going to go in thinking they're going to make the team. No matter what you tell them, you're not going to change what they think. They think they're going to make the team. There's not many of the ones that are going in are going to make our team. They've still got some seasoning to take care of. However, the experience in and of itself can be very positive. And I've seen it happen where it's very negative over time too, if it comes with entitlement, if it comes with, a comparison value that you're walking around with. Most of our guys have at least been nudged about that. They've been not so much warned as, hey, this can happen. I've seen this happen. And we've actually had some players share some situations where their first big league camp or second big league camp didn't go well because they were entitled when they walked in the door. They felt entitled. They felt better then. And then when they got back to the minor league side, they didn't realize that every minor leaguer is going to watch them coming out of big league camp, see what they learn, see how they handle themselves, see what kind of, if there's a different walk or if there's a confident swagger, just what happens to them as they go through this next opportunity. And it's also just an opportunity for them to familiarize themselves with our major league staff, our major league players that are there. This year, basically, there's somewhat of a small theme going around camp that we've got a lot of guys that are showing up with a chip on their shoulder. We got beat up on the playground last year, the major league level. We lost 103 games. It was a perfect storm to have a really hard season. We didn't play well. Our best pitchers got hurt. We had an HOV lane for pitching from the bottom to the top all year. Many men had to compete at different levels, probably quicker than we hoped they would. Position player wise, we made some moves and moved some older players out, got some younger players opportunities. So we're an organization, I think, in transition. However, we've talked about the plan coming in. And the plan coming in is we're going to have to do some more hard this year. However, it's time to put a foot down, collectively lock arms, and become that team that's just a rock in your shoe, that's just a pain in your side, that's going to fight every at bat, that's going to fight off the mound, claw, scratch, play good, hard baseball, execute fundamentals. At the end of the day, every team talks about the same thing in spring training. Every team does. Some teams obviously have a lower ceiling than others. Some teams have more depth than others. But at the end of the day, if you can pitch it and catch it, you're going to have a chance. Whether you're in Little League or in the big leagues, once you get in your season, if you can pitch it and catch it, you're going to be in 70% of the game. Those games, sometimes more, I would say about half those games get decided by the other team just not playing well. You don't do anything fantastic. You just make baseball plays. You execute baseball plays. And the other team shows up short. And that was us last year too often. We were the team that was showing up a little short. So that chip on the shoulder is real. I think it was Robert Conrad back in the day. Wasn't he the one that put the battery on his shoulder?
Oh, yeah.
Knock it off. I dare you. Knock it off. So hopefully that's kind of the mindset our guys are walking into spring training with. Because in the minor leagues the last 2 years, our guys have been playing with an edge. We've played good winning baseball the last 2 years in the minor leagues. They've learned how to win together there, and now it's time to take the next step and see how that matches up.
I read a good story recently in The Athletic that because there are more young players at AAA or AA, AAA, and in the big leagues primarily, the gap between AA, AAA, and big leagues has increased, which means there's more teaching and instruction at the big league level. And it never stops. And I would encourage anyone that's in the baseball industry to go back and listen to what my podcast partner just shared. There's a great deal of wisdom there. Clint, your experience. I always said this when I was a college coach and when I was an agent. There's nothing like the knowledge of 10 years or more in a big league clubhouse. It is a set or a subset of knowledge unto itself. And people who think they know that, they don't. And the men who are and women who are blessed to have that experience, it's a different level and it engenders respect. So thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate that. I'll say that's a bit old for you. What's new for you is competing on the environment of social media and seeing your influence grow by the week here recently. Um, you've been active in email ministry, text ministry, and over the last 2 months, you've been especially active on social media, and it's been fun to watch. What are things that you're attempting to achieve, and what's it like to see some of that influence grow?
Well, my son had really challenged me before he left for college on finding a way to get the positive message that I had out in better fashion, in 21st century fashion. He shared with me, Dad, you put a lot of work into it and your ceiling's very low. Your email ministry, 7,000 people. He goes, that's really good. How much has it grown in the last year? And I said, well, it really hasn't. Okay, what are you doing to try and grow it? Well, I'm not really trying to. He goes, well, you should. He goes, we all need some positivity. We all need nudges at times. He said, I've seen you do it. I've watched you do it. Your text messages, how many do you send out a day? I said, well, some days it could be 100. He goes, okay, there's a better way for you to do that as well. He said, if you can find a way to put a little more focus into Instagram and into Twitter, now called X, he goes, you're going to impact people that you don't know in areas you could never reach the way you're doing it. And you know what? He goes, you've got some celebrity. So as soon as you get on, people are going to be attracted to you one way or the other. It's kind of like, the car broke down on the side of the road. People are going to slow down and take a look. Oh, Clint Hurdle's on X. Let me check this out. And, if you're a joke or a clown, they won't follow you. Or if you're the cynic or the sarcastic, that'll attract some people, but it's also toxic for many others. He said, just be who you are, the authentic person you've been, and see how many people you can reach that way. So we've approached those both. And it amazes me from time to time. He doesn't check in with me every day, but every once in a while he'll see a post, he'll respond back to it. I've got some other people that do the analytical work for me on checking numbers and things like this, but it does kind of catch me off guard when you can make a post and 20,000 people saw it or more. We've had some crazy things happen where over 200,000 people have reacted to something. And Christian just shows that just goes to show you. He said, but there's some rules of engagement. And this is my 19-year-old son telling me the rules of engagement. He said, be bright, be light, and be polite.
Oh, wow. Do that again. Say it again.
Be light, be bright, and be polite.
Yeah.
And he said, and when you get a hater or you get somebody that picks at you, he said, exit stage left. Do not engage. Do not engage. Do not engage. He goes, because it starts, all you do is pick scabs. Because you're going to find out who's the most sarcastic. You're going to find out who's the most cynical. And it's crazy because it affects people in different ways. It almost becomes an addiction. You try and win an argument online. And truthfully, as I've dug deeper on myself, my responsibility with anybody out there that listens or reads something that I share isn't to change their point of view. It's just to present a perception that I have or I've learned over time and to share it with them. Maybe we can learn something together. But if they fire back and go, no, I'm just not even going to engage. I'm going to walk away. It's amazing how quick it stops.
Clint, we've been, this podcast about a half hour. We're into it. We're really right where I want to be with you for a couple of reasons. One, your son just parented you. So that means that you and Carla, or at least Carla, parented him really well, because that's all really solid advice.
Yeah.
That's one. And two, that's what I want to encourage you to do. That's what I want to come alongside you to do, is to be who you are in the middle of all of this. That's one. And two, I want to encourage you to be more of a guest on other podcasts, which eats a lot of time. You got to balance that. But I want to encourage you to do that. And then I think it's time for us to line up John Gordon and a half dozen others who are in culture, active, doing something similar. And I want to hear your questions for them and reactions to them. I think that's a place for us to go. And I want to thank your son for guiding us into that. Clint, I think that's where we're supposed to be. That is really wonderful. My heart just grew as you were describing that. I think that's where the two of us are supposed to be with this conversation. And I got to remember, say that again, be bright, be light.
Be light, be bright, and be polite.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said, and very, very simple, but not easy. And I've learned already that I've just learned there's so many benefits in walking away, because there's times I've actually written something and then just erased it.
Yeah.
There's times I've thought about writing something and just said, don't bother.
Yeah.
Stick with your theme, stick with the way you're going about it. I share my faith from time to time. I've shared my recovery program from time to time.
Yeah.
I've shared baseball experiences. I've shared my fails. I go on Instagram, I share a Friday fail every Friday. And I had a great one this morning. I had a tremendous fail this morning. People can identify with that. And I think that's what I'm just trying to do, is help the community, that we all just need to get along at the best we can and not try and compare or compete so much, because I do think there's a lot of cool people out there. And I can tell you this, I've probably met close to a dozen people since May that I've been on social media, that there's nothing I wouldn't do for these people after engaging with them on some meaningful conversation, sharing some life stories and experiences, the way they've embraced some of Maddie's situations, having a special needs child.
Yeah.
It's been magnificent. I wouldn't have met him any other way.
Clint, this has been a time of growth for both of us. We both take on this challenge. I've learned a lot in the time we've had together here. There's a lot to what you just said. There's a lot, and you have the ability to impact there, and I want to be a part of that. Your life in baseball and mine is not the same, but I mean, a college coach, and I was an agent for a decade. Our son played 5 years in the minors, and we have to talk baseball, and we have. I think God's calling us to be even better after the baseball season gets underway and we hit more of our stride, where baseball is part of what we do, but our guests and our conversations are really what we're called to do. And I'm excited about that. I think about that quite a bit. I do.
I think it'll be exciting for some of the people that will be able to get on board and to be our guests and to share their stories.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm looking forward to asking them some questions that maybe they haven't been asked before.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Really good. We still got some time going here. Let's talk about a couple things. I want to talk about basketball, because I'm a Hoosier. And that means basketball. And the NBA is headed to Indianapolis for the weekend. Already a really remarkable thing. I want to give a shout out to my cousin Barry Gibson, who's a senior executive with the Indiana Pacers. If you follow him on social media, you see just how that city of Indianapolis has embraced and gone way beyond what is normal for hosting the NBA All-Star Game. They did just really remarkable. Clint, did you see the statue unveiled of Oscar Robertson? That was
beautiful.
Yeah.
I grew up at a time where Oscar Robertson was a real player, and my dad was a basketball player, Ferris State College in Michigan back in the day. And Oscar Robertson was one of the names he brought up. Probably brought up Oscar Robertson more than he brought up Bob Cousy.
Yeah.
But I followed the Big O even as a young child, in the way he carried his game, the way, the energy he brought to his game, and the fact that he had to be a trailblazer as well in the NBA because of color. He basically could have been a part of the NBA's, Jackie Robinson story.
Yeah.
Tremendous talent, remarkable human being. So I thought that, the statue was just so timely, so well done, and what an honor to a very deserving man.
Yeah. Jerry West, who Hall of Famer, often says that Oscar is the best he ever played with or against. They were Olympic teammates. They played against each other in all-star games and all that, and all that's true. And I grew up in Indianapolis and have been aware of that. And it's really wonderful to see how his high school, Crispus Attucks High School, which is in close to downtown Indianapolis, the near north side, has really grown. Interested. The high school basketball coach at Attucks, and they're a top 5 ranked team in the state of Indiana in the big school division. The guy that coaches there is from my high school, Southport High School. Go Cardinals in Indianapolis. Southport has one of the largest high school gyms in the country, Clint. And I grew up literally across the street, going to games what seemed like all the time. So basketball is a big part of that. We also want to talk about Caitlin Clark. She this week became the new NCAA women's all-time leading scorer, and she did it with a shot from about 35 feet out. There are some things I want to bring up about Caitlin. Her journey, the manner in which she's carried herself, everything's authentic, everything's real. The talent, the character, the manner in which she has handled the ascent. We tip our cap to Caitlin Clark and Iowa basketball and what she has meant for women's basketball as a showcase this season. Really remarkable.
What a fantastic story. And it's been ongoing. It's going to play itself out this year. There's going to be more basketball for her in her future.
Yeah.
I think, did she have her foot on the logo when she sent that thing flying? I mean, and it was effortless. That's the other part of it. It was effortless. And it's just what she does and the confidence in which she has in playing. And she did it against my team, the Michigan Wolverines, who are not on top of the collegiate basketball, season this year. But I think it's always cool when a story like that can get everybody's attention, get national attention. And how about the ticket prices last night for the game? Wow. I don't know if you read any of the articles on that. They're $300 to get a ticket to watch her play. Never been seen before. Probably never seen again. Who knows? But she's done it with grace. She's done it with selflessness. Yeah. She's done it with a team-first mentality. Even though she knows they're going to rely upon her, she's the go-to person on the team. Yeah. And the way that she does draw her teammates in and let they celebrate with her. They're not all just celebrating about her. She that term mudita, expressive joy for somebody else's success. You can see that her teammates have that for her. Yeah. It's been a really cool story. And, I want to bring up one other female that we need to give a shout out to is Jenny Cavnar, who just left the Rockies and going to be the first female play-by-play caller for the Oakland A's out there. Jenny's been in Denver for quite a while. A Colorado girl has done a really good job there. And she's going to go now and do her thing. And I couldn't be more proud of her, happy for her. There's a handful of women that I've been fortunate enough to lock arms with in the last 4 years. Melanie Newman in Baltimore, Jessica Kleinschmidt, who's in Oakland, covers the A's, Danny Wexelman, who does a lot of perfect game stuff in New York, around the city, Susie Hunter, who does a blog and a podcast and covers the Rockies, Kristen Hudak used to work for, I think it was also for the Orioles at a time, or the Phillies. Now she's out on her own. But these women, Kelly, Wingert Lynch, Kelsey Wingert Lynch up in Colorado, used to be with Atlanta. All these girls have been doing their thing. Yes, Heidi Watney's been doing hers. Atlanta Rizzo's been doing hers. There's a lot of them out there. It's just good to see them continue to get opportunities to rise and to not be less than, to be given opportunities to be the same and maybe greater than.
Let's get into our last segment here. We'll talk a little bit of football. Your Lions acquitted themselves very nicely during the playoffs. Dan Campbell, some folk hero status in the Motor City. As you look back on the entire month of playoffs, and then the Chiefs winning the championship, Mahomes outdueling Purdy, give us a primary thought, and I'll share one as well.
Primary thought is it's amazing what can happen to a group of people when nobody cares who gets the credit. Dan Campbell played for an 0-16 Lion team. He was given the opportunity to be the head coach, which was a lifelong dream in his mind. And he came out pretty brash. It's not like he's backed off the gas pedal since then. However, you can see him learning each step of the way. You can see the team reacting to his personality, to his aggressive nature as far as, playing a game of football. There's always going to be conversation of woulda, coulda, shoulda. I don't second guess anything he did, and I'm not going to just say, well, that's the way he did it all year. He's learning. The team's learning with him. They're learning together. They're fun to watch, and I love the fact that they're so connected. There was a lot of great stories in the playoffs. The fact of the matter is, if the Bills hit a field goal, we don't see Patrick. There's no Patrick. There's no Chiefs storyline. As good as they were, and it just goes to show you that team, for the most of the year, the noise was they're underachieving. They're underachieving. They're not in sync. They're finding their way. They lost their OC. They haven't. Spagnuolo may have had his best coaching season ever. Who knows? I think he can tell you better than me. But he's one of the first. I think he is the first coordinator with 4 Super Bowl rings now.
Yeah.
So that's more than one thought. But those are some under the hood thoughts that I have. If the Bills hit the field goal, there's no Patrick. If there's no Patrick, you're not going to see Spagnuolo go out and do his thing. And the 49ers, they played a good game. They played a good game. They got beat by a better team. There's nothing better in sport to get hot late. And that's what the Chiefs did. They got hot late.
Yeah. The late Ken Ravizza, one of the fathers of baseball sports psychology, it's not the best team, it's the hottest team at the end. And he repeated that over and over and over again. I was fascinated just watching Purdy and Mahomes perform, just observing. Highest level of sport. You and I both know that at that level, like you say, wide right field goal, one team rises, another falls, hearts break. The margin's pretty narrow at that elite level, and it's interesting. I don't know what to think about people who are so critical of the Niners. I would want them to sit in the hot seat themselves, because they played brilliant football, and Patrick. And then I'll give a final thought about Patrick Mahomes. When he came out of Texas Tech, and he took the test for the combine and all that, he was near Tom Brady-like in his competitive mentality in some of the intelligence tests and personality and leadership tests, nearly Tom Brady-like. So people, that accounts for who he is and why he is. He is an elite competitor in a very good way. You don't see him dressing down his teammates. He just over and over again finds little ways to compete well, both right in the light of day and on the margins. A lot of respect for him. I think whether we're watching the best or one of the best and all of that, it's a pleasure to see him perform. What an athlete! What a tremendous gentleman as well.
100%. And the fact that his name is now being mentioned in Tom Brady era.
Yeah.
And let's replay that videotape a little bit. Tom Brady didn't start for the University of Michigan.
That's right.
The beauty of sport is so many stories get told we would never write. We don't have the vision to write them on our own.
Yeah.
But sport gives them the opportunity to play out. And there's always that somebody along the way. And maybe Tom Brady, he talks about Greg Hart, his mental skills coach at Michigan, being one of the most impactful and influential people in his life. You never know who that person is. I'm sure Patrick had one in his life. The same questions that are being asked of our boy Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco were being asked of Andy Reid 8-9 years ago in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And now Andy's in a different, he's in a different lane. And now Kyle's in that hard lane. I mean, they won a lot of big games to get to where they were.
Yeah. Clint, we just nailed 45 minutes. It seems like it goes by very quickly. You have travels. I'm going to head to a ballpark in just a minute. Tell me when you walk up to a ballpark, what do you look for as a paid professional observer? And because I know what I look at when I walk up. What do you do?
Well, the first thing I don't look at first, I smell. And there's many times I like to get to the park early where I can smell actually the fresh cut grass.
Yeah.
Or just when nobody's there, can you smell the water that they're hosing the field down with?
Yeah.
And the other, I do the concession stand smells. I love the smell of the popcorn. I love the smell
Popcorn.
of a hot dog.
Oh yeah.
After that, when I come in and watch a game, there's some basic things I do watch. I watch if the pitcher hits the glove, and I watch if the batter hits the ball where it's pitched. And then I watch the batter if their swing and misses inside the strike zone. People are going to chase pitches at any level, but there's a lot of swings and misses inside the strike zone. But I watch for the pitchers. I give a few innings to everybody. And then defensively, I watch if position players are pitch ready when that ball's out of the hand, crossing the plate, if they're in a defensive position ready to make a play. So they're still not on offense. So those would be the first things I put my eyes on.
Yeah. I'll partner on top of that. I'm there. I'll give some bads. Bads would be on defense of an outfielder or corner infielder standing there working on their swing. That I don't like that. A bad idea. That's me. That's an I guy, not a team player. You can learn a lot by observing in baseball. I'll watch when teams run off the field, how they run off the field from defense and get in the dugout, and likewise how they get from in the dugout out to their defensive positions, because I want to see who's giving it their best, who's prepared, and who's thinking of team. On defense, alertness begins with awareness, then communication. So much happens way before. And whenever guys will ask, well, what do you mean, watch the baseball, you'll learn something from that? I say, watch and see. You
Right.
will learn. And so I watch to see in the dugout who's observing. I'll watch and see who's in the on-deck circle that has a routine, that has an idea, is really paying attention. I watch to see if between half innings, if you're the leadoff or the on deck hitter, are you rushing in? Is your helmet, batting gloves ready? Are you out to watch the pitcher's 5 pitches to see is it a strike or not? Is it a hard or a breaking? Is it a fastball or a breaking ball or not? And then now you're ready to step in there. You're mentally ready. Go ahead and get your breath. You're in there. You're ready to compete. I look for those little things like that. And then when we're doing these things that we're talking about, the other things show up glaringly. When guys are not doing those things, it screams, oops, that person's
Yeah.
doing what they should be doing.
Well said. Thank you.
I'm headed out to scout today, actually, just to watch a young man that I really like, who's a good friend. Clint, we're done for today. Number 3, podcast number 3.
I appreciate you spearheading our efforts here.
If people only knew what went on behind the scenes.
That's right. We are like that duck on the lake. Hopefully we look cool, calm, and collected above water. Underneath the water, there's a lot going on.
So it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate the very kind comments some of our friends and others have passed along from the first 2 episodes. This is Clint and Phil. We're 2 guys on 2 coasts. Thanks for hanging out with us.